Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories. My name is Elena, and I've always been drawn to the quiet beauty of the ocean. There's something about the way the waves crash against the shore, relentless yet soothing, that speaks to my soul. Life, much like the tide, has a way of washing away the old and bringing in the new, sometimes when you least expect it. This story began after I lost my sister, Mia, to a long battle with illness. Grief has a peculiar way of reshaping you, forcing you to find solace in the most unexpected corners of the world. For me, that corner was a garden, a neglected, overgrown patch of land that belonged to a man named Mr. Calloway. Mr. Calloway was 70, a retired historian with a sharp mind and a gentle demeanor. His wife, Eleanor, had passed away a decade ago, and since then, his once vibrant garden had fallen into disrepair. The first time I saw him, he was standing on the edge of the garden, his hands stuffed into the pockets of his worn-out cardigan, staring at the tangled mess of weeds and withered flowers. His eyes, through clouded with age, held a depth of emotion that made my chest tighten. "This was her sanctuary," he said softly, almost to himself. "She'd spend hours here, tending to every leaf and petal. Now look at it." His voice was heavy with regret, and I could feel the weight of his loneliness pressing down on him. I'd been there before, drowning in loss, searching for something to hold on to. So, without thinking, I said, "Let's bring it back to life, together." He looked at me, surprised, but there was a flicker of hope in his eyes. And just like that, I found myself knee-deep in soil, pulling weeds and pruning branches under his watchful gaze. At first, our interactions were quiet and reserved. He'd sit on the porch, sipping tea while I worked. Occasionally, he'd offer a word of advice or share a memory of Eleanor. "She loved lavender," he said one afternoon, running his fingers over a cluster of dried stems. Said it reminded her of the fields in Provence where we honeymooned. She always dreamed of going back. His words lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken longing. I nodded, making a mental note to plant lavender in the spring. As the weeks turned into months, the garden began to transform. What was once a chaotic mess of overgrowth slowly became a place of order and beauty. But more than that, it became a space where Mr. Calloway and I began to open up to each other. Our conversations shifted from the garden to life, love, and the quiet ache of losing someone you hold dear. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, we sat on the old wooden bench near the newly planted lavender. The air was warm, and the scent of blooming flowers filled the space around us. "Do you ever feel like you're just waiting?" he asked suddenly, his voice breaking the comfortable silence. "Waiting for what?" I replied, turning to face him. He sighed, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "For the pain to go away, for life to feel normal again." His words struck a chord deep within me. I'd spent so long trying to outrun my own grief that I hadn't stopped to consider what might happen if I simply let myself feel it. "I think," I said slowly, "that maybe we're not supposed to wait for the pain to go away. Maybe we're supposed to learn how to live with it, to find beauty in the broken pieces." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something shift in his expression. It wasn't just sadness or longing, it was understanding. Without a word, he reached over and placed his hand on mine. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. At that moment, I realized that we weren't just tending to a garden, we were tending to each other. The next morning, I arrived to find Mr. Calloway already in the garden, kneeling beside the lavender bed. He looked up as I approached, a small smile playing on his lips. "I was thinking," he said, "that maybe we should add a fountain. Eleanor always wanted one." I grinned, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. "I think that's a wonderful idea." As we worked side by side, I couldn't help but notice how much lighter the air felt, how much lighter I felt. The garden, once a symbol of loss and neglect, had become a testament to resilience and renewal. And in the process, it had given us both something we hadn't realized we were searching for: a sense of purpose, a connection, and the courage to bloom again. People often think gardens are about the flowers, the colors, the scents, the way they brighten a space. But they're wrong. Gardens are about the stories they hold, the memories they preserve, and the way they remind us that even in the midst of chaos, there is always the potential for growth. Mr. Calloway and I, we were just two lost souls learning how to grow again. And in that garden, amidst the lavender and the laughter, we found our second chance.